The room remains exactly as it was sealed. Air stagnant, yellowing tape curled at the corners, dust resting on every flat surface as if it had taken ownership. The ceiling light flickers, not quite strong enough to command the darkness, only thinning it. For a moment, the investigator stands still, allowing the scene to speak first. The past is not loud. It breathes slowly, faintly, like a memory stretched across time. The floorboards accept his weight with a muted creak, and the air carries a scent of papers once handled, once read, and then forgotten. In the center of the bedroom, the outline where the body once rested lingers in chalk, soft, almost disappearing. Time has worn it down but not erased it. He remembers her name before he sees the file. Coralie Trent, age 28. The name arrives in his mind with the precision of a date, a code, a ledger entry he never finished. She had been a history archivist at the State Museum in Savannah, gentle in voice, meticulous in her work, noted for her patience with dusty maps and aged ink. Friends had described her as deliberate, thoughtful, not easily hurried. He stands now exactly where she had been found, the imprint of her presence faint yet persistent. It is close to dawn, and the window glass reflects pale blue light from outside, revealing a neighborhood that has changed but not transformed. Her curtains remain, soft lavender, gathered neatly, undamaged by time. The investigator touches the fabric with gloved fingers, not for evidence but respect. The sound of the file clasp opening breaks the quiet with a clean snap. Inside, the first photo waits. He turns it gently, Coralie's face serene, framed by dark hair, not staged, not posed, a person in stillness. Calm eyes, clear and almost knowing. He notes the angle, the light, the way her gaze intersects the lens as if accepting it. He sets the photo on the table without commentary. Silence builds its own narrative. He reviews the room not as mystery, not as puzzle, but as record. A desk well arranged. A stack of handwritten notes tied with a cotton ribbon. Atop them her museum identification badge, Coralie Trent, Preservation Specialist. It rests near a dried bouquet, pale petals curled inward, color nearly gone. He writes in his notebook, objects preserved with intention. No assumption. No dramatic leap. The next piece, a journal, leather-bound, cover slightly worn. He opens it with care. Her handwriting is precise, steady, dated meticulously. June 12, 2007, cataloged the Jefferson cipher prints. Ink fatting faster than predicted. Recommend lower temperature storage. He reads without interpretation. She had been doing what she always did, protecting things that time wanted to take back. A page falls loose, tucked inside as a marker. It is a photograph, smaller than the official one, casual in composition. Coralie smiling faintly at her desk. Beside her sits an object, a rare 18th century ledger she had been restoring, its spine reinforced with new binding thread, its pages whispered to be delicate. The investigator studies the photo not for faces, not for expression, but for alignment. Her hands rest on the ledger, not touching it, simply near it. The detail is subtle but decisive. In this quiet space, intention matters. He sets the photo down. The air moves lightly, carrying the scent of archived pages and linen curtains. The room feels held in pause. He notes the absence of struggle, the absence of chaos. This crime had not been loud. Whatever happened, it moved with restraint. The next file is thinner. Interview records, a curator, a neighbor, a coworker who remembered Coralie's schedule. The investigator reads fragments aloud, softly, as if reciting from a script. Coralie worked alone most afternoons. Deep focus, didn't enjoy interruption. She cared for artifacts with a kind of reverence. The words do not add tension, they clarify rhythm. Coralie had lived in stillness long before the room inherited it. He checks the drawer beneath the desk, finds a small metal case, padded interior, velvet lining. The object that once belonged there is absent. He writes, removed intentionally, no trace disturbance. The case's shape suggests something delicate, possibly a seal stamp or engraved key. Not jewelry, not decoration, something functional, historically anchored. A rustle at the doorway. The junior officer stands there, hesitant, clipboard in hand. "Sir, you wanted update." The investigator nods, but does not turn fully. "Leave it." The junior officer steps back, no further words. The space reclaims silence. The investigator removes a thin envelope from the original evidence box. Inside, a single sheet. Museum transfer log, handwritten by Coralie. The entries list artifact movement with careful notation. His eye lands on one item. Jefferson-era encryption seal, custody transfer pending review. The signature line beneath it remains blank. He notes the date, 3 days before Coralie was found. He does not leap to motive, to pattern, to the easy line of thought. Instead, he stands at the window, letting the morning light settle on the file. Coralie had been trusted with historical truth. She handled time the way restorers handle pigment, patient, unhurried, in service to continuity. A memory flickers, his own first walk through this same room in 2007. He had been younger, sharper in speech, quicker in conclusions. The evidence had felt clear then, a sequence that pointed in one direction, internal theft, value-driven intent. But the logic had been thin, the paperwork unfinished, the case left suspended. He returns to the desk. A folder he does not recognize lies beneath the others. Its label reads in her neat script, "Seal variants, confidential review." Inside, photographs of wax impressions, subtle differences encoded into spirals and initials. One red, one pale gold, one deep green. Beside them, Coralie's notes, variant not decorative, purpose unclear, possible diplomatic cipher. It is here, not in the body outline, not in the reports, that the twist resides. Quiet, structured, entirely logical. Coralie had not been guarding value. She had been studying patterns in seals used to secure early diplomatic letters. The removed object from the velvet case was not treasure, it was key. A physical decoder to impressions that reveal authorship and intent. He writes in his notebook, original assumption flawed by economy lens. True motive archival, not monetary. No dramatics. No revelation shouted across years, just correction. He examines the seals closely. Each impression differs only by a fraction of curve, a minute stroke. To a casual observer, identical. To Coralie, distinct. She had recorded each variant precisely, mapping them against unknown letters in the museum's restricted collection. A small card falls from the folder. Her handwriting, smaller this time, inward. If variations hold, history shifts. He pauses, not to absorb emotional weight but to acknowledge precision. Coralie had been on the verge of identifying a pattern that would adjust long-standing timelines of correspondence tied to state formation. He steps back from the table, allows the evidence to speak. Her work was not about possession. It was about verification. Someone else had understood that. Someone who saw the implications not as academic curiosity but as structural adjustment. He opens the final interview record. A museum board advisor, brief in wording, she worked late. Lights on past midnight, always careful with the seals, nothing accusatory, nothing alarming. He listens to the room. Outside, traffic begins, day begins, lives move. In here, a life continues in notes, in ribbon-bound pages and the almost faded chalk outline. Not tragedy, chronology. He writes his closing line for the morning. Case resolution not about act but about detail. She preserved truth, It preserved her. He closes the file. He does not speak to the outline, nor to the dust, nor to the lavender curtains. But something unspoken lingers, gratitude possibly, though he would not name it. He exits with no haste, leaving the room in the same quiet stillness in which he found it. Justice will proceed mechanically, as all protocols do. But the human portion remains in her handwriting, in the slight curl at the end of each letter, in the way she recorded history not as possession but as stewardship. The door closes gently. The archive wing of the museum stands before him now, newer paint replacing the once uneven beige that greeted them in 2007. A soft hum travels through the climate control system, steady, neutral, timed for the preservation of paper, ink, and bindings older than any living curator. He signs his name at the visitor log, though he does not need to. They know him here, even after the long gap. The receptionist nods lightly, no words exchanged. The silence follows him as he walks past glass cases and accession tags, past placards designed for public viewing, until the hallway narrows into restricted territory. A soft swipe of his badge unlocks the final door. Inside, the vault lighting is gentle by design, angled downward to avoid direct exposure. The air smells of linen binding cloth and polished oak. He pauses, listening, letting the stillness align. Coralie's workspace had been near the back, beneath a wall of temperature monitors. Her desk remains, though now cleared and reassigned. A label reads, Preservation Desk C, authorized personnel only. No name, no mention. He places the file on the desk with a slow, deliberate motion. The weight of it does not feel heavy. Rather, it feels structured, like something prepared to be examined without rush. He opens the folder containing the newly retrieved seal records. Each wax impression sits photographed at high resolution, aligned in a grid. Symbols appear, spirals, crossed initials, flourished letters. The differences are almost microscopic. A standard seal might carry identity. These carried gradation, variation, nuance. He reads her final entry again, the handwriting smooth, unforced. Variations are intentional, not decorative, not error. He traces the line of text with his eyes, not his fingers. Coralie had seen the pattern not as curiosity but as design. A subtle shift in spiral orientation, a slight indent at the left corner, a line at the base. The seals created levels of access, each impression corresponding with rank of recipient. He writes in his notebook, she did not pursue value, she pursued function. The museum director enters quietly, shoes softened by carpet. His voice is low, restrained, respectful of the vault. You requested the sealed transfer logs. A nod is his only reply. The director sets a box on the desk, edges worn, tape replaced over time. The lid opens with a soft release of air. Inside, envelopes stacked by decade, each tagged by accession number. The director steps back, giving distance. The investigator examines the 2007 binder first. Inside, signatures line each artifact movement, delivered, examined, returned. All orderly, all routine, until the line with the encryption seal. He notes the absence again, the blank space where Coralie's signature should have been, indicating final transfer. He turns the page. A supplementary insert appears, filed later, a short typed note. Seal reviewed but never cleared for display. Hold pending evaluation. No signature. No date, just a phrase, functional language, no alarm. He lifts the binder sheet and sees, tucked behind it, a photocopy of Coralie's notes. Not the official handwriting but her private margin observations. The edges are faint, copied lightly. Seal produces 3 impressions, all accurate, only one authorized for correspondence. He pauses. Not to interpret emotion but to track sequence. 3 impressions, 1 legitimate, 2 controlled variants. He writes, false correspondence pathways implied. He notices something else. Coralie had circled a line of text beside the pale gold wax. Variant B, recipient classification unknown. He studies the supporting images again. Pale gold, deep green, red, each hue tied to shape, each shape tied to message. Someone in 2007 had viewed the seal as item. Coralie had viewed it as instrument. The director remained silent in the doorway, sensing the gravity not as sentiment but as archival truth. Any further records? The investigator asks, voice measured. Yes, the director replies, placing a second box on the desk. Her personal research clearance logs. He opens the box. Inside, thin blue folders labeled in small script. Not museum property, not official curation. Personal study files. Coralie had documented her findings with the same discipline she used for public cataloging. The investigator reads the first summary sheet. Seal variations align with correspondence during early diplomacy. Color and spiral shifting, not to mark rank but access tier. He underlines one word, tier. She had not been solving a riddle, she had been decoding a system. He moves to the next document. A diagram cleanly drawn, 3 spirals, 3 orientations. Each connects to initials in faint pencil. He reads, CBJMDR, no full names, no explanation. The twist is not dramatic, not cinematic. It is methodical, inevitable. Coralie had discovered that the seal was not merely artifact but mechanism, a controlled gateway for communication in a formative governmental period. He writes, access not secrecy, core function. A soft tone from the climate monitor signals a temperature shift. The air adjusts. Paper breathes almost. He turns again to her handwriting, steady, even, calm. No rush to conclusion, no embellishment. Her notes do not speak of alarm or fear, only continuity of focus. The director steps closer, eyes resting on the folder. We believed she was preparing an internal brief, he says. She never submitted it. The review never took place. The investigator nods, not in agreement but acknowledgement. He retrieves the smaller metal case from his original evidence bag, the one with velvet interior where the seal once sat. He places it beside the files. Empty, its purpose becomes clearer. Not display, not exhibition, housing. A box designed for function. He notes the absence not as loss, but as data point. The director gestures toward a locked drawer beneath the desk. There is one more thing. A key turns. A thin envelope emerges. No institution label, no departmental stamp, only a name written with concise pen pressure for internal reference only. He opens it carefully. Inside, a single sheet. No lines, no headings. Coralie's handwriting again, deliberate, each letter upright. If seal distribution is authenticated, system requires revision. This is the quiet twist. No confrontation, no sensational reveal, just adjustment of record. Not a solved case in the traditional sense, but a completed understanding. He closes the envelope slowly. The museum lights hum. Dust remains absent here. The climate system has ensured purity. He exhales, not from fatigue but from arrival. Coralie had preserved not objects but accuracy. Her work had not been halted by distraction. She reached the threshold of discovery with clarity and discipline. The case is solved not by identifying a perpetrator but by resolving an assumption that value was monetary, when in fact value was informational. The investigator gathers the files in careful order. 1 variant seals. 2 transfer logs, 3 personal tier diagrams, 4 internal reference note. He stacks them neatly, squared edges aligned. The director speaks once more, voice soft. She cared deeply for record integrity. The investigator replies in a single, neutral tone. Yes. No praise, no lament, just truth. He leaves the vault, passing displays untouched, placards unchanged, history resting in curated order. Coralie remains present not in outline chalk, not in sealed reports, but in notation margins where her quiet precision shifted legacy. Outside, afternoon light settles across the marble entrance steps. People move, conversations drift, the city continues. He pauses at the exit, holding the envelope marked internal reference. There will be procedural follow-ups, archival revisions, committee verification. Justice, in its administrative structure, will proceed. But beyond that, in the space between handwriting strokes, something persists, a calm acknowledgement that her work endured. No triumph, no dramatic resolution. Just the steady continuation of truth. The regional office holds fewer artifacts but more finality. Corridors lined with gray filing cabinets, fluorescent light steady, unblinking. The investigator signs into the records room, not because procedure requires it but because continuity matters. Paper trails outlast memory, and memory in this case must remain disciplined. He places the sealed museum envelope on the table. It sits beside the official case binder, aged at the edges, stamped with the date he never forgot, July 14, 2007. He opens it without hesitation now, not to revisit distress but to align fact with fact. Inside, the official medical report, not dramatic, not contentious. Coralie Trent had been found unresponsive due to no external force, a conclusion that in 2007 left the investigation directionless. No theft indicators, no intrusion marks, no conflict evidence. Silence had surrounded her even in conclusion. He reads the phrasing again, no disruption of environment, subject positioned peacefully, not staged, not altered, simply present. In the years since the file rested in limbo, not a priority, not abandonment, just suspended. Evidence had not collapsed, it had waited. He reviews her final weeks through documented hours. Museum schedules, logged precisely. Evening entries show she remained past closing on several nights. He aligns this with her handwritten notes. Seal classification nearing resolution. Require uninterrupted review. Uninterrupted, not secretive, not concealed, just focused. He flips to the final interview transcript, Coralie's colleague, the only one who spoke with her the night before she was found. The voice on record is soft, fragmented, almost reluctant. She said the seals were layers, that history wasn't linear, that maybe timelines weren't as fixed as we say. No speculation beyond that. No fear, no conflict recorded. Coralie's interest remained academic, steady, articulate. He sets the transcript aside. Methodical discovery continues. Next document. Internal email from museum administration in 2007. Neutral tone, procedural language. Pending confirmation on seal acquisition. Await Coralie's final notes before board review. He considers this. No pressure, no directive, just routine. Coralie's desk, when reviewed again that morning, had confirmed sequence, variant recordings, authorization tiers, encryption seal conclaves. No breach of protocol. No rush toward publication. Her work existed in marginalia and precise cataloging. He turns to a photocopy of her final unfiled page, retrieved but not entered into official ledger. Tier differences indicate structured correspondence hierarchy. Historical narrative requires adjustment. That was her twist. Not revelation, not confrontation, but calibration. A correction that would bend, not break, accepted chronology. He writes in his notebook, "She reached accuracy, not exposure." No external motive, no internal conspiracy, just completion halted by time. He opens the new evidence envelope handed earlier in the day by the director. Inside, a scanned letter, unsigned, undated, stored under restricted classification until now. It confirms what she had suspected. Variant seals were alternates for restricted diplomatic communication. Legitimate, intentional, identical by design, except to train custodians. Coralie had trained herself through study, not access, and arrived at recognition. The system had not been hidden, it had simply been forgotten. He places the letter beside her diagrams. The alignment is perfect. Spiral arc, signature countermark, hue-coded authorization. He exhales quietly, not relief, not burden, just restoration of sequence. His original case notes had leaned on motive where none existed. The truth had been in methodology. He stands, retrieving the item log sheet in which the velvet case had been referenced. Only one line matters now. Seal housing returned intact. Instrument missing for academic reassessment. Academic, not illicit. He re-enters the observation quietly. Seal was never removed for possession, removed for classification. This resolves the misstep taken years earlier, not criminal absence, professional relocation. He closes the binder with quiet decisiveness. The room does not react, paper never does. It absorbs resolution without applause. Outside the records office, late afternoon shifts toward dusk. Temperature falls slightly, enough to register on perception but not enough to disturb thought. He sits briefly in the hallway chair, file on his lap. Years had passed not in tension but in delay. The final call he must make is procedural, not emotional. He dials the museum director, voice steady. The seal classification can now be finalized. Her notes align with internal record. A pause on the other end, not of surprise but acknowledgement. "We will amend the archival index," the director replies. He closes the phone. No lingering attachment, no ceremony, just execution of professional closure. Yet as he prepares to submit the revised case summary, something uncalculated remains. Her careful handwriting, her measured lines, her quiet commitment to preservation above recognition. The work she undertook was not for acclaim, not for sudden revelation. It was the kind that maintains civilization's memory, patient, exact, unseen. He enters his final line in the case log. Conclusion: no breach, no exploitation, historical recalibration pending, researcher's integrity affirmed. He signs his name with disciplined pressure, ink steady, page crisp. He places the envelope, now empty, back into the binder. Evidence does not vanish, it changes form. The corridor outside the office is quiet. Evening staff shift their pace to departure. Keys jingle, doors close, footsteps recede. The investigator walks out without urgency, blending into the slow dissolve of institutional time. At the exit, he pauses only once. The sky over Georgia holds a muted gradient, not dramatic, not symbolic, just light transitioning toward night. He observes it without assigning meaning. Coralie Trent's work will enter corrected archives, not as tragedy, not as controversy, but as calibration of record. A life spent in careful stewardship defined by the smallest marks, a spiral, an indent, a handwritten note. Justice here is not verdict or arrest. It is preservation. He leaves the building. The door closes softly behind him, no echo, no commentary. The case, complete yet restrained, returns to quiet. History adjusts, the world continues. And in the still margin where her notes remain, something human persists, not named, not emphasized, not concluded, simply present.